Welcome everybody. Happy holidays. Happy Tuesday. Hope everybody's doing great. I see everybody rolling in. We'll just keep the clock going here while people log on. How are you today, Melissa?
I am doing good. Yeah, can't complain. Excited for Christmas to be here. So
I would have never guessed.
yeah, I know.
Are you about halfway done with the holiday decorations? Is there more to go?
No, I'm done. I can't do anymore.
Nobody
Yeah.
can come over, right? It's just for Zoom, basically. Is that like the only part of your house decorated right behind you? That way everyone can see it on
No,
Zoom?
if I turn to my camera, there's another tree that I'm looking at. So
Of course
we're crazy here. Yeah.
You have more trees in your house than I think I have in my entire gated neighborhood.
I believe it.
All right, welcome guys. Thanks for joining us. Just letting everybody jump on. Melissa, you want to kind of go over some housekeeping, the tools, just make sure everybody's ready to go?
Yeah, so on the bottom of the screen, you should be able to see a little chat button. So if you click that, there'll be questions asked throughout this, or if you have any questions yourself, just feel free to put that in the chat section. There's also a question and answer. So if you have any questions, you can ask through that as well. And then either myself or Jeremy will answer them throughout the call. We should be on this and wrapping up within the hour, but feel free to engage. We're here to help with anything you guys have.
Excellent. Thanks, Melissa. Yes, this will be interactive, guys. We're giving you a workbook. We want you to play along. Now, I know that you guys are all muted and we can't see you. You can only hear us, but feel free to chat in those questions. And as time allows, we'll make sure to jump in and see what you need along the way. So, all right. So one thing I want to just announce before we truly get started, and this will be our only real plug, is we have a really exciting event in January. If you have been in other industries, you know it's quite common for there to be a big sales kickoff event, something where salespeople have the opportunity and are challenged to set goals for the year. They are taught new skill sets, are given new tools that they maybe never used before. They're showered in some motivation, so they get excited. And it just really gives a good reset that, 2020 is over, it's 2021, we've got new goals, we know more than we ever did before. And it's time to celebrate that and get to work. So we are hosting what we believe is the first ever property management sales kickoff in January. It's a two half-day virtual event. It is January 14th or 13th and 14th. I almost had the wrong days. It is available here. I'm just going to drop in the link. Today it is $129. It'll eventually go up to $299. I think that the $129 price ends today and it goes to the next level. So if you have anyone on your team or you're responsible for sales, we'll essentially be going over some really cool stuff. We're going to be talking about time management for salespeople, which by the way is one of the 11 systems. We're going to go deep on that today. Two, we're going to talk about how to prospect and generate leads. Always good to revisit the age-old question, why do people buy property management services? Really understanding the essence of that and how to set your goals and hit them. We've also got some amazing outside of the industry speakers coming. I met someone who I saw speak who was fantastic. He was literally nearly burned to death alive when he was 6 years old. He was basically set on fire on accident by some neighborhood kids. He missed school. He had all kinds of deformities. And fast forward later, he's living an amazing life. He's an absolute sales superstar and sales leader in his industry and company. And the theme of our sales kickoff is no excuses. And Shay, the speaker that I was just mentioning, to me is the epitome of no excuses. The deck was stacked against him and he always rises to the occasion and conquers it. So if you're just in the sales kickoff, highly encourage you guys to jump on. We think it's going to be amazing. This is our first run. If it works, we'll do it every year. But I just wanted to go ahead and say that because if you're here, you probably care about things like growth and sales and marketing. And so I didn't want to miss out on that opportunity. Okay, having said that, let's jump in. Now, I am dropping in a link, which is view only for you guys. This is a Google Doc. This is the workbook for today. This isn't a document that I hope survives in your company. This is something that even we at Rendscale are looking at on a quarterly basis. We're about to go into our annual planning. Jordan and I are going to get together. We're going to pull this up. We are going to use this as a benchmark for how strong and productive is our sales organization. And by the way, that essentially is what we're doing with the 11 systems to sales mastery. The goal is for you to build a strong, reliable, and scalable sales function, and it's never done. So let me just give an example. It's iterative. The first, not the first, but one of the systems is a referral generating system. Now, if you're a small company and you have no way to track referrals and actually take advantage of them, ask for them, know who gave you the referral, and then close that loop when that's done, well, that's going to be your definition of success. Now, if you're a more mature company like some of our clients, the mastery level of that might be able to systematically make sure that everybody moving through your pipeline, everybody moving through your sphere of influence is being asked for referrals, it's being tracked. And the way that they're being asked for referrals is so compelling that you can actually predict the amount of referrals you're going to get by month. So some of these are, there's a wide range of success. What's important is that you're aware of all of these systems and you're always upping the game in each one of them, no matter where you're at. So this is a fantastic way for you to know how to focus. And so I'm sending this out. It is a Google Doc that you guys can grab. And it's read only, so you can either print it out, but what I would encourage you to do is go to File, and then you can either download as a Word doc, or you can make a copy if you use Google Docs like we do. And now you'll have this forever. And that is, we think, a phenomenal way to come back to measuring and managing your sales function and deciding where you need to work on. So we do this, we score ourselves on the 11 systems. We did it in Breckenridge at our last quarterly. We're going to do it again going into this. We created a sales plan. We're working on our prospecting systems. We're working on our time management systems. And we choose a couple of these to up our game every quarter. And that's what I want you guys to take away from this. So hopefully you guys have that. If anybody's not sure how to do that, or if you didn't get the link in the chat window, let us know. But I've dropped the link in. Melissa, can you click on it and verify that's the right doc?
Yes, it is.
Okay, wonderful. So there you go. Follow along, guys. We're going to diagnose your sales function today. Hopefully give you some ideas, raise your horizon or your ceiling on what you think you can do with all of these. That's the whole point of it. But most importantly, hopefully you guys leave with like a clear plan on what to do next. That's really what I want you guys to take out of this. So, okay, having said that, got all my visual aids set up over here, ready to go. I'm going to jump in. So I'm going to go ahead and do this with the presenter view the way I should have. And we will jump into the presentation. We got some polls we're going to show, and I'm going to ask you guys to share your takeaways, your scores, make this really interactive. So what is the 11 systems of sales mastery? Why did we do this? Essentially, there's a lot of shiny objects in business. There's always new technology. There's always new gurus coming out. There's an infinite number of things you guys can do to grow your company. People will tell you you should have sales development reps. You should get virtual assistants to make sales calls for you. They'll tell you that you should have marketing automation. You should use retargeting in social media. You should create content, right? There's just no limit to what people are going to tell you to do. And it's so overwhelming that it can actually become quite paralyzing. And so I hope that the 11 systems is your anti-shiny object repellent so that you guys can come back to the fundamentals, the blocking, the tackling, before you start trying to do the flea flickers and the crazy, things that I can't even think of the other names, and try to skip over the basics and go to the advanced stuff. Because this is the basics. And I can assure you that if you're doing these things well, good things are going to happen. And if you're not doing these things well, no matter what kind of crazy thing you invest in, it's going to be being built on sand, or it's going to have holes in it, and things won't work the way they are. So last thing I want to say is that I think that the 11 systems can be used really well by two very different types of companies. So company number one, who can get a lot out of the 11 systems, is somebody who wants to do everything they possibly can to master the sales function. They truly do honor and celebrate how important sales is in a company, how vital it is to growth, choosing your own clients, having a healthy future, creating stability, and you're always looking to level up. And I'll show you how we're going to do that if that's you today. Now, on the complete flip side, I think the 11 systems are every bit as useful to a company who is just struggling to get the results they want. They've tried a lot of things. They just cannot seem to have consistent growth no matter what they do. And they want to quickly find the bottleneck that's slowing them down. Now, I can't promise you that fixing the bottleneck will be fast, but at least if you can identify what it is, you know where to exert your effort, and you know how to unstick that bottleneck as fast as possible. So company one, your sales is dialed in, but you're always looking to take it to the next level. I always like to say you're either growing or dying, right? That doesn't not mean that you need to be adding more and more doors, but it means you need to be getting better at everything you do and replacing the less desirable clients with the ideal fits. Now, company number two is somebody who's struggling and they're looking to understand what the problem is and diagnose it so they can fix it. So I'm going to launch a poll. This is totally anonymous for you guys. And I would just like to hear from you guys, which one best describes you? Do you identify more with company one, meaning you're just trying to level up your game, or is it company number two, you're hoping to identify what you are perhaps doing incorrectly or could be doing better? Perfect. Appreciate this, guys. Results are coming in. Looks like we got 80% of the votes. Give it one more minute here. All right, perfect. Glad I gave it. We got the votes. All right, so I'll end the poll. And Melissa, does that pop up on your screen?
It does not now.
Oh, because I didn't click the share button.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so the results are that company one, 33% of the votes, and then company two is 67%.
Excellent. So there you go, guys. Pretty close. Do I have an echo when I talk, Melissa? I'm hearing some feedback on my machine.
I don't hear an echo.
Okay. All right. Maybe you just turn your volume down a little bit. Maybe it's just the combination of us. Excellent. All right, guys. So there you go. So we have about 2-to-1 ratio that filled this out, letting us know that you're company two. And that's not uncommon. So I really hope that by the end of the day today, and I believe, because we've done this a few times, this diagnostic will expose exactly what you should do next. And there's a lot of power with that clarity. Now, we are a sales organization, like I said, and we use this and come back to it on a regular basis. So I hope that this will become instilled in your culture and something you guys review at least annually, if not quarterly. Okay, so what is a strong, reliable, and scalable sales function? Let's talk about how we've organized the 11 systems. So we know that a strong sales company is effective, meaning that they know how to convert the leads that come in. They're good at sales. I understand what the customer is looking for, and they know how to actually turn that interest into business. They are productive, meaning that they can actually go out there and find the time to market, to prospect, to call the customers back, actually close the deals they want, and they are expanding, meaning they're getting better all the time. They're constantly building their pipeline. They're building their prospect database. They're replacing misfit clients with better fit clients, and more people in the marketplace know who they are. I believe that if your company is effective, productive, and expanding, you're on the right track. And so that's what the entire system is built out. So you will see in the worksheet that I gave you that it's going to ask you to take an off-the-cuff assessment. On a scale of 1 to 10, do I believe my company in the sales function is effective? Do I believe it's productive, and do I believe it's expanding? I'd like you to just think about that for a second. But this isn't, we are going to pull the curtain back. We're going to show you more and more of what a 1 out of 1 looks like and what a 10 out of 10 looks like, so that you can revise that score and so you know where you really stand. So let's jump right in. Let's go through these systems. And the first thing to ask is your sales process effective? And so on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to ask you to just think through what are, sorry, I was getting distracted there trying to find the poll because I was going to use a poll here. All right, so is your sales function effective? And I apologize. First time using this poll system. I want to make sure I get it right. Okay, there we go. All right, so think about that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how effective is your sales function? But before I launch the poll, I would like to dive in and ask you some clarifying questions. Now, these are in the workbook that you have, but I think it's really important. So very often when you're trying to understand something or score something, it is useful to look at the contrast or the exact opposite. So let's look at problems that you might have if you have an effectiveness problem in your company. So, ask yourself, do I have a low conversion rate? Am I getting opportunities at bats and leads, but I'm just not converting them? Is it difficult for me to defend our pricing and our policies? Do I feel like our sales conversations are becoming defensive and I'm trying to defend everything that we do, specific fees that we charge. Am I accepting misfit clients? Do I have to take clients because I have a lack of, the right ability, or I'm lacking the ability to convert the right ones? Do the people on my team doing the sales, whether that's you or somebody that you've turned it over to, like your property manager, your marketing person, or a full-time BDM, do they lack confidence and dread the sales conversations? Are your salespeople the last one to know about a PMA change, right? Are they out of date with product details, company goals? Do they know about your policies when they change, or do they know about new local regulation, compliance issues, things that are now requirements because of COVID? Are they informed and up to date? And last but not least, did you have a salesperson who's fantastic at one time, but you feel like they've plateaued? These are the questions we like to ask to kind of uncover, is our sales department as effective as it could be? Now, the flip side of that, the way that we've written it down in your workbook, this is our definition of a healthy, effective sales department: that interested leads, people who are calling you, raising their hands, saying I'm interested, are consistently converted into customers. And these systems are growing in their effectiveness, meaning that your conversion rate is improving. People are becoming more confident, not less confident. And you believe like you're going to be taking more business out of the marketplace rather than less. So that's a 10 in my opinion. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where does your company rank in sales effectiveness? Is it below 4? Is it in the middle? Maybe 5 to 7? Or you feel like this is an area that you actually have invested some time in and you're more on the 8 to 10 side? So it looks like we have about half of the votes in. Okay, coming through. And we're getting pretty close to 100% today. We've kept this webinar pretty intimate to our past clients and some of our favorite prospects. We didn't go out and market this one like we normally do. So we don't have to wait around for everybody to zoom in. Okay, perfect. So I think we have 90% here. All right, I'm going to share the results with you guys. Not unsurprisingly. Can you see that, Melissa?
Yes, I can see that.
So the overwhelming majority is right in the middle. That's what we find. That's good. Now, for the ones on the 1 to 4, obviously, you're starting to uncover where you might dive into the systems, what you think is most important. I think that, being effective is the first place, the foundational point to work on your organization, because we want you to have leads. We want you to be productive. We want you to do all these other things. But at the end of the day, most of us can trip over 2 or 3 or 5 really good referrals or inbound inquiries a month. And I want to make sure that you guys are really aware of how important it is that you're winning the majority of those that are a good fit for your company, because you're getting less at bats. So I think it's really important to make sure that you work on the effectiveness side. So thanks for playing along. So if you want to improve, and this is where I think the 11 systems are so helpful, if you want to improve your effectiveness, then you focus on investing in the systems, maybe one, maybe all. And so what I'd like to do now is show you how you would actually work on the effectiveness in your company. So here would be the action plan if you want to improve the effectiveness in your sales work. 1, you need a lead conversion system. I mean, this is the very first thing the very first drum we were beating at Rinscale was, you got your maintenance department is dialed in, your accounting systems are world-class, everything, all the trains run smoothly, but you're just winging it when a new owner calls you and asks what it's like to work with you. We need your lead conversion system, which is what that is, your sales process, to be just as dialed in as the rest of your business. It's not that hard. It's about understanding why those people buy from you, how to identify and discover their needs, giving them the right information, understanding what's important to them, and then asking for the business. That is the essence of our sales playbooks. That's the first thing we do with every company we work with. You don't have to hire us to just systematize that sales process. Think that through and practice and make sure that you guys can convert leads the way that you need. That's fundamental. It's always, these systems are not in necessarily a 1 to 11 order, but I am confident that if number 1 is not dialed in, the rest are just not as effective as they could be. Second thing you want to do is create some training and alignment systems. If anybody else on your team is in charge of sales, it's super important that they understand every facet of the business. What is a maintenance request? What are our policies around that? What does it look like to get your statement? What happens if? What are the local guidelines that we need to be concerned of? What are the common mistakes that other property managers are making? We can actually systematize that. It's not a one-time thing. As your processes change, you need that system in your company. And if you look in your workbook, I've got a lot more information under each one of these. But I believe that none of these are an initiative. They are systems that can be institutionalized, documented, installed in your company, and then they need to be maintained. Every now and then they need to be refreshed and make sure that you're understanding where you've fallen off the rails and where you can get back on track. This is the one that I think I get the most light bulbs around right off the bat. If you're the owner doing all the sales in your company right now, I would venture that the reason that you're so effective at doing sales is because you speak to every customer, you know all the success stories, you know all the problems that you've overcome, and you know all the downsides that you've had to fix when your customers have gone and worked with a different property manager and then come back to you to save the day. Those are success stories. And so Melissa is a salesperson for us at Rensko. I'm going to ask her about this. I believe that stories are the best way we can sell. We get so wrapped up on being able to explain our policies and answer information and know what is included in which package and the difference between this pricing and that pricing. But at the end of the day, when I have a problem, I have a concern, and you can share a story where you've overcome that before, I'm going to be more compelled by that, right? Facts tell, stories sell. And so we need to make sure that the BDM, who largely becomes uninvolved once the client signs on, actually knows what the success stories are. And last but not least, and I'll come back to you in a second on that, Melissa, I want to ask you about that. We need feedback and accountability systems. So we need to actually work with the people doing sales. It's really tough when we're the one doing sales, right? But if somebody on our team is doing that, and if it's us, we need to have a coach, or we need to have somebody hold us accountable. And we need to have feedback and accountability as we do that. So these are 4 systems that I promise you, if you want to double your effectiveness in sales, this is exactly where you start. So we've got a whole set of micro checklists under these. We don't have the time to show you everything we know about every system. The purpose of this webinar is truly to give you guys buckets to look into, so you know where to focus your effort, where the problem could be. So if you do these 4 things, we know that the effectiveness will go up. And so if you go in your workbook, you can actually score yourself on a score of 1 to 10, the same way we did overall. And you can use these little checklist items that are in the workbook and say, okay, do I have a good lead conversion system? Did I think I was at a 10, but when I read these, I'm maybe at an 8, and I could spend a little time there in the next quarter and up my game. So each one of these, as you know, you can fill them in. It's really about installing them first. So I use that story or that example earlier. If you don't even know how to track a referral, you don't even know how to ask for a referral, you simply need to install a referral system. If you have one and it's not being used, if it's not getting the results that you want, you maybe just need to master that system. And then eventually that system will become stale, it can be improved, and you will want to upgrade it. So as you score these systems, you want to ask yourself, do I need to install this? Because I don't have anything like this whatsoever. Do I have it, but we're not doing it, or one person on my team does it well and the other 4 people are terrible at it? Do I need to master it? Or have we reached the point where I now need to upgrade? So it's a little bit of a staircase, and it's a cycle that you'll come back to over and over again. That's why these systems can be useful for you even once you feel like you've accomplished all 11 of the systems. And that's why I like it so much as a business owner. So I can't go through all these systems in the time we have, but I want you to know, if I click over in the workbook I gave you, under each system, you have a checklist to truly, these are what I call clarifying questions. These are meant to make you really think through, how effective is my system? What could a 10 look like? And only when you can emphatically say yes to all of the sub-bullets do I really feel like it's a 10, right? And even then, a 10 is relative. It may work when you have 1 sales rep and then you try to move to 2 sales reps, and now you're right back to the beginning and working on institutionalizing this as a team. So I can't go through them all. Feel free to jump in, any questions you have along the way, anything else you want to ask. But what I want to do is focus on a couple of these and some highlights, just to give you some, some meat to think about what these could actually look like. So lead conversion system, I mean, that's a sales playbook. It's built into the CRM. Everybody's using it every time. When the phone rings, everybody is saying the exact same thing, the same way, asking the same questions. And based on what they're learning, they're treating those prospects the same way. It's not the same as being canned or scripted. It's about being systematized, consistent, optimizing that over time. Second, training and alignment. I mean, this is what we do at Scale Club. You know, we have over 40 property management BDMs actively working with us on a weekly basis. We're training them, giving them new systems. We teach their companies how to keep them aligned, how to roll out change over time. And by the sales kickoff, that number will probably be 50 plus. So we're really proud. I think we've really built the largest community of property management sales professionals in North America, and that was what we set out to do. And it is growing very quickly, thanks to great work by people like Melissa. And so, Melissa, I want to ask you, success story collection systems. This is so important. I was doing all the selling and all the servicing before you showed up, and you would hear me get on these sales calls, and I would tell all these stories and say, oh, that was just like what happened to Ben, or that's what happened to Steve. And we eventually realized that I was able to sell in a different way that you couldn't keep up with until that knowledge was transferred to you. And so would you mind just kind of speaking about how you use stories and selling and how we've actually systematized the collection from the coaches to you?
Yeah, so success stories are really important. I think prospects always want to hear from whatever company they're about to work with, you know, what success do you have? So for us, I think it's even better when you can share a success story when it relates specifically to that person's need or pain. So what we do at RentScale is we actually have a system where our sales team meets with our coaches on, number one, a weekly basis where we share kind of any highlights from our customers. And then we also have a call at the end of every single month to really see who has shown great results. And then as a sales team, we gather these and we share these stories throughout our presenting to prospects when we have consultations with them. So that's how we do it as a system. But it's always important that everyone is on the same page and we're sharing real results with everyone.
Yeah, we just added a new process when we have our quarterlies where you and the rest of the sales team will be presenting back to the operations team the stories as you learn them, right?
Yeah, so that is something new for sure, which I'm excited about. But I mean, I don't think there's a time that I'm not talking to someone that I'm not sharing a story with. It's just that important for them to understand that someone has, you know, been in their shoes and that we have been able to help them out.
Yeah, sorry about the dogs. But yes, the stories are the ultimate way to do it. And that's something that we're really excited about because we always say, sorry, I gotta let these guys out. Sorry, we always say that the salespeople in your company should truly be the archivists of success. So they should go around learning what everybody's doing well, hearing what works best, and those stories and those legends are in no better hands than the people actually talking to your prospective customers. So I believe that can be systematized. I like to stop on that one because I feel like it's a great example of something people take for granted that they know is important, but they don't spend the time making sure it's actually systematized in their company. So I'm gonna go in and jump into the next one. So let me share my screen.
And Jeremy, one thing to point out too, that workbook that you shared with everyone,
Yeah.
It's interesting if you actually use that and score yourself as a team, because when we did it for the first time at RentScale, it was interesting to see how Jeremy rated us as the owner versus how the sales team rated us versus how operations rated us. And we were kind of all on different pages. So kind of seeing from every different perspective within your company and then getting together and picking one of these systems that is the most important for you to perfect, say, in the next quarter.
Yeah, great reminder. That's exactly what we did. And that was a really illuminating conversation. We had scores all over the place. Sometimes the sales team thought they were terrible at something, the operations team thought they were amazing, and vice versa. So that was really aligning. So the last system for effectiveness, got off my game when the dogs started going crazy, is feedback and accountability systems. And so, again, I don't want to go through all this, but I want to share one more anecdote. We as a sales team practice. So we get all the sales reps on. I know that this may not seem approachable to you guys if you're the only one doing the sales or if you have one sales rep, but I can promise this is effective with two people, you as the owner and the sales rep. We do this in Scale Club with our BDMs. We do it together as Rent Scale, and we actually practice sales. And so we go through, what does it look like when the customer asks X? Let's pretend to be a customer and let's understand what the real problem that they had that they wanted fixed was. And then what happens is the person who's pretending to be the prospect knows what their problem is. And then the salesperson has to uncover it. And then they have to, everybody in the room says, this is what I think their real need was. This is what I think their problem was. And then the prospect gets to say, no, it actually wasn't, or it was. And this is what I was thinking. I want to put you back on the spot one more time, Melissa, just to kind of discuss what do you think about practice as a salesperson? This is not your first sales role. How important is it to you in your development and learning an entirely new industry?
Extremely important. I think that practicing is something that everyone can do, whether you're just starting off or whether you are the best of the best, because you can always get better and you can find out different ways to present and be more effective. But yeah, like Jeremy said, we practice on a weekly basis at least, and we practice all different things, and it's really just for us to get better, and especially starting off new, because I know some of our clients are, hiring BDMs for the first time, or maybe it's their second BDM they're hiring. But when someone starts in that position, to be able to practice and not have to memorize things, then everything just starts to come natural. You know how to respond. That's when it really is the best.
I completely agree. I learn things about our own business when I practice, and I hear what the common conversations are like and what language we're using. So it can be a little awkward in the beginning, but I promise you, nobody quits because of it. Nobody dies. You get past it like anything, and it starts to become something that's a lot of fun. If you've been to any of the sales mastery events that we do, or any place I've spoke, always when I say we're going to practice, the room looks horrified. And by the time we're done, I have to fight for the attention back because everybody's having so much fun and they're so in character and they're learning so much. So it's one of those things that sounds intimidating or unapproachable, but once you do it, you're going to be really glad that you did it. So that to me is just a great illustration of a good feedback and accountability system, because I'm providing feedback to the sales team, holding them accountable to their goals and to getting better. And it's just a really fast way to do it. So if you say you don't have enough time, then that's a great way to do it. So I'm going to launch another poll, guys. So those are the 4 systems to become more effective in sales. And by the way, feel free to ask any questions, but I'd love to ask you, if you're playing along at home and you're keeping score, which is the system that you want to work on first? Which is the one that you think you need the most attention on, or that you are going to commit to working on in 2021? So I launched the poll, let you guys fill that out. And when we come back, we'll jump into the next section. All right, getting a little bit of everything here, it looks like. It's coming through. Looks like I got 80%. Anybody else? Any last minute ones? This time we make sure you guys aren't on Facebook. We just throw polls out. And we appreciate you guys actually responding to them, coming through. Okay, so I think that's going to be good. I'll share the results. So a little bit of everything: lead conversion, training and alignment, success story collection. I love that. We just finished working on that, and then feedback and accountability. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. No, I'm glad nobody actually asked companies actually have selling systems, because that's the look I get sometimes when I first present these. All right, great. So if effectiveness is your problem, I hope that was helpful. Again, we're scratching the surface. We can't solve the problems right in this webinar, but I just want to let you guys know which rug to look under, as I said. So let's jump back in. I'm going to share my screen and we'll jump into productivity, because once you become effective and you start looking around and saying, wish I had more time for sales, wish I, could get back to people the way that I want, I'm really good when I get in front of the right people, then time starts to become your bottleneck. And so I want to make sure that you guys can be as productive as possible. So again, with your worksheet on a scale of 1 to 10, start thinking through how productive is your sales function, whether that's you or if you have a team. And so again, I always like to look at the opposite. What are the problems that might be rearing their heads if you have a productivity deficiency? And that would be one, that you have ambiguous goals for the sales function and salespeople. That may be a surprise to you guys, but if you guys don't have clear goals, then how do you know that they're being as productive as possible? Everybody's kind of left to their own devices, and I hope the phone rings today and we'll figure this thing out. So ambiguous goals to me is always a concern that the company may not be as productive as possible in the sales function. Do you have a lack of scheduled recurring check-ins on progress? Do you have a lack of clarity on progress towards your goals? Do you know where you're supposed to be by the end of February and if you're on track? Are you unable to respond to incoming leads rapidly because who is supposed to do it is already in meetings, or they're too busy, or there's just not enough time to get back to them, and are being asked to do other things? Are you unable to make the time to be proactive and go out there and create opportunity? And we're going to talk about what that looks like through networking, through prospecting, through a number of other ways. Do you have no visibility into your sales pipeline or the progress that you're making? And do you really have no clarity on your sales results or your marketing effectiveness? Meaning you don't know what to change, you know what to fix. That's the case. To me, it's usually a productivity issue. So the opposite of that, the gold standard for productivity, is that your company has clear and meaningful sales targets, not just the same numbers that they've always hit, but they're meaningful sales targets. And the team focuses their time efficiently on hitting those targets. So it's really important, because you can have a busy team that isn't necessarily a productive team in the sales function, right? If you've got your salespeople doing a million other things, they're busy, but they're not truly productive in the sales role. And I can't illustrate that enough. So not going to send out the poll this time. We're going to keep moving through, but just kind of think through on a scale of 1 to 10, how productive am I in the sales role, or is my company, or the people I have in it? And so if you have a productivity issue, then there are 3 systems that you can implement that will solve that for you. Number 1, you need a goal setting and measurement systems. I mean, what gets measured gets done. It's just proven over and over again. So if you have no way of actually setting these goals and managing progress, then you don't even know if you're productive. So, and lack of understanding or awareness is just as big of a problem as awareness of the problem that's not getting fixed. Number 2, you need a time management system. Time is the great equalizer in sales. If you're not using that time well, then you are not going to be getting ahead, or other companies are going to be getting more ahead if they're using their time better. And so we'll talk about, what does time management look like for salespeople? That's a big one we're very passionate about. We're working on in our company, we're working on in Scale Club. I can share some good ideas with you on that. And then the last but not least of productivity is, are you managing your pipeline? Do you have a good pipeline management system? And again, Melissa and I will riff on that one, because I think that that's super important. So let's kind of look at a couple of these in detail. So if you've ever been to one of our Best Year Ever webinars, if you've participated in the things that we've done with Profit Coach or Lead Simple, we are always available to help you forecast your next quarter. Something we do as a service for our prospects, for our clients, something we do very intentionally on a scheduled basis with our Scale Club clients and people that we are working with ongoing. But if you're watching this and you're like, I have no plan for the first quarter of 2021, reach out and I'll show you how to do that at the end. We'll give you an email address, and somebody on our sales team will be happy to ask you some questions, walk you through our door forecast modeling tool. It's a spreadsheet. Again, something we give you guys. But it just helps you understand, okay, if this is my goal, what's really required to do that? And then we show you how to manage that on track. So a quarter is typically 13 weeks, and we can actually show you where you should be by week 6, by week 7, by week 8, so that it's not sitting around and hoping that all of the results show up on week 12 and 13, which is what so many of us are guilty of. So if you've probably seen us do this before, but our door growth modeling tool and our forecasts are all about this. And so reach out if you need help. If you have it and you've stopped using it, shame on you, but don't be too embarrassed, because we've been guilty of that as well. Just because you learn something doesn't mean you're disciplined, you stick with it. And so we can help you with that as well. Time management is something that I think is so important. I think time management for salespeople is so much different than time management for other people. If you're in a customer service role, if you're dealing with a lot of people, if you're working on big projects, you're either reactive or you're able to carve out large amounts of uninterrupted time, right? Those are two different things. If you're in customer service, you're highly reactive, and success is about being there and being fast. You don't need to plan your day. You just need to be available. If you're more of in a project management role, then you need, big focuses of time. You need to manage everybody. But if you're in sales, you actually are towing the line. You need to be available when people need you, and you need to have your initiatives and actually set up the time and have the discipline to go out and make stuff happen. Be proactive in a sales role. So I think that time management for salespeople is the trickiest thing. So we're big believers in this. Melissa, we've been working on this a lot, right? And Melissa is actually great at time management, but it's just something that even no matter how good you are, just to have the awareness of where that time should be going is hypercritical. And so if you come to the sales kickoff in January and you sign up before the end of the year, we are actually working, I'll show you, these are some of the pages that I'm working on with the designer. This is all in beta. You're hot off the press right here. So we're coming up with these daily, weekly, and monthly goal pages where we're allowing BDMs and people responsible for sales to design the perfect day, stay aware throughout the day, and then see where their time is being used best and not. And so you've probably seen these before. There's a lot of, these planners out there and these, professional things. Well, we believe we're building the first one for property management salespeople. And if you sign up for our sales kickoff, we will actually send you one of the first 100 copies that we're printing as a beta. And we are going to install these in property management companies all over the country, ask them to use them, get the feedback, and then refine that product and actually roll it out on a more professional basis. But we're testing it internally. I've used this before in a less formal capacity with other sales teams, and it works. Time is being wasted and stolen and lost every day, and there's no awareness. And so we think it's super important that you have this. So that's all I'll say about that, but I think it's really important. And, if you can't come to the sales event for whatever, keep an eye on that. And if you want to know more about that, reach out and I'll share with you what we're doing. Okay. So 7 is where I want to bring Melissa back on. A pipeline management system, not just saying that you use Lead Simple, not just saying that all of your leads are in the CRM, but actually a system that lives up to what, we have in your checklist. So Melissa, as someone who has been selling for, close to 10 years, and you've been with us 2 years, juggling hundreds of leads at a time, what is your take on the importance of an organized and up-to-date pipeline management system?
It's needed. I am a type of person who likes to write things down, which I do every single day. I print out kind of my to-do list. But having a CRM where everything is stored and organized is really the only way to sell. Otherwise, as a salesperson, you have so many things to do, like keeping track of contracts, keeping track of tasks. Do I need to send this person some piece of value 2 weeks later? It's just an organized way to have everything. And then you can see too, not just, what do I need to do on a day-to-day basis, but you can look at the data, right? So your conversion rates, how many discovery calls did I have and how many of those turned into consults? How many consults did I have that ended up in me sending an agreement? And then with that information, we can button things up. We can practice where we need to. It's the most important thing, having that CRM.
Yeah, when I ask you to forecast next month's sales, where do you go?
Yeah, so I go in the CRM to my deals, to consults I have scheduled, to people in my pipeline, and I'm able to give Jeremy numbers on this is who I think will close, this is how many deals I think I will close. And then that number can change throughout the month too, depending on consults and what happens. So I can always give accurate data on kind of a day-to-day basis if something changes.
Have you ever had a client tell you no, only for you to follow up and then decide to hire us later?
Yes, lots of times.
And how are you able to do that?
Some people just aren't ready for services, or they can't see, you know, how you're going to help them out. And as salespeople, we always take it on us, like, I did a bad job. But sometimes they really are just not ready. But making sure in the CRM, I am putting the notes on what they're telling me. This is their problem. This is how many, well, for us, this is a little different, but how many doors they have, just knowing everything about them. And then I even will put in the CRM different like verbiage they use. So some people might call something something, and something might call it something else. So being able to pull that and then send them a follow-up call or a follow-up email or a card in the mail for whatever, Christmas coming up, Thanksgiving, and just staying you know, on top of it, but knowing that I'm always going back to what their goals were when we originally spoke.
Yeah, guys, record keeping, tasks, systems, you know, organization of the information, and then knowing how to use that is the difference between paying $100 a month for a CRM and making thousands of dollars a month because you have a CRM. So it's obviously how you use it, how it's systematized, and how you manage the pipeline. And the sales team knows we have a show, not tell environment. That's something I've been saying for a long time, even before I owned RentScale. I had different sales teams. We don't get to tell me how your week is. You have to show it to me in the CRM. You don't get to send me a commission report. It's run out of the CRM. So the real reality that we live in as a sales organization is being driven by the pipeline. And that's why it's so important to have that systematized. So thanks, Melissa. Those are really good experience shares. So I'm going to move on to the last one, guys. Those are the 3 systems that you should be looking at. And again, I know you have the workbook, so I don't feel inclined to repeat them all. Go through those, and if you feel like you've got the effectiveness to a level of acceptedness, I'd encourage you to look at productivity and make sure that you're staying as focused as you are, because the more productive you have means the more free time you have. And if you say, well, Jeremy, what am I going to do with all that free time? I'm going to tell you about the 3rd area of the 11 systems, and that is expansion. So I'm going to share my screen again. We're going to walk through. This is where people get usually excited. This is where people are like, okay, Jeremy, you made me learn how to block. You made me learn how to tackle. I've been running laps. Now give me the good stuff. I want to be throwing the 100-yard bombs. This is the expansion systems. I would just encourage you guys not to step over the fundamentals to get here, even though I still think these things are very fundamental. But if you're not doing those other things well, it's going to be hard for you to get fancy and just go into this area. And so I want to ask you guys, is your company expanding? Just like we've done before, let's look at some problems you might be having that are symptomatic of not having these systems in place. So do you have right fit customers, people that you want to be doing business with, but that are actually leaving your company? And you may be surprised to hear me talk about that, but it is the salesperson's job to attract, educate, and cement in the value proposition, set the right expectations, and that's a big part of the expansion system. Do you have a lack of consistent new prospect opportunity? We hear this all the time. I just need more leads, right? Just give me more leads. And that's not typically the problem, but at some point that does become the governing factor. Do you have a lack of quality referral opportunity? We all know that referrals typically convert at an exponential better rate than strangers. And so we want to make sure that everybody with a mature, functioning sales department is actually getting referrals. Are you competing on price in the sales process? Do you have lack of new opportunities from your existing clients, which means nobody's ever coming back and adding properties or upgrading their services? And are your salespeople unclear on how to use their free time? So can they wake up every day and know exactly how to contribute their effort to growing business, making sales, earning commissions, right? Those are the problems that I think that you might be lacking in some of these expansion problems. So now the flip side, our gold standard for expanding is that the growth of your company is consistent with systematic attraction and retainment of ideal customers. We cannot stress that enough. This is not about growth for the sake of growth. It's about leveling up and attracting the most profitable clients at the most profitable rates. And the team members responsible for growth know how to create that opportunity. They're not just looking at you saying, what are you going to do? I need more leads. That's when you know that you're expanding at a level 10. And so think about that, write that down. How does that sit with you, right? You've got your workbook. We're wrapping up here. We're going to walk through these systems and we're going to make sure you guys have a plan going forward. I'd like to think about how you guys feel on a level of 1 to 10. By the way, this is the way when we do this. This is typical where we start getting the really low scores. as we walk through what the systems are. So here's your action plan if you want to be expanding. You need personal marketing systems. I'm all for brand. RentScale has a brand. I can promise you, RentScale has made a fraction of the sales that Melissa Miller has. Melissa's on the call. She knows that. People know Jeremy Pound maybe more than they know RentScale, right? They know Melissa, they know Barrett, they know Maya, they know Kristen, Jason. We have personal marketing systems we're going to talk about. You cannot be afraid to create personal connections and make noise in your marketplace at a personal level if you want to be at a level 10 of expansion. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. So I cannot stress that enough. Number two, you need a way to wake up and use energy to create more opportunity. And that's prospecting systems. We'll talk about that. It's usually the number one thing people are interested in. How do you actually create more sales opportunities? Now, prospecting is not selling. I want to stress that. Prospecting is generating sales opportunities. And if you really isolate those and segment those, it starts to become obvious how to do that. We'll talk about that a little bit. We believe that you can actually, just like you can systematize customer success stories, you can systematize referral systems. And I'll throw some ideas out there for you. And last but not least, the most controversial one, really good salespeople actually help retain customers, and it's systematized. It doesn't mean they're jumping in and doing operational work. It means that there are systems built into their day that will help retain and expand the business that any customer is doing with you. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today as we wrap up. All right. So moving through, first thing I want to talk about is a personal marketing system. And so a personal marketing system means that you are going out into your market and you are building your own marketing systems. Doesn't mean like a personal brand. I know that gets like a bunch of, there's a bunch of foo-foo out there and things like that. Let me give you an example of a personal marketing system. I don't know if you guys remember, but when COVID hit, we created this like template guide that everybody could change. I think I'm on like the mirrored, so I apologize. You're probably seeing it backwards. But it basically says how to safely and effectively rent your property during COVID-19. And when that was like a new thing, we were talking about contactless showings, anti-scam signage. In fact, we still have this. I think I can give it out. I gave it out with instructions to customize. So I'm going to drop it in the chat. Again, steal it, download it. You can't edit it, but you can create a copy of it. But look at this. I know it's backwards, guys. I apologize. Acme Property Management is it not backwards, Melissa? You can see it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, then I'll stop apologizing. It's showing it backwards to me. I'm still a Zoom noob, apparently. So Acme Property Management is like 20% the size of John Doe. So it says, contact your landlord advocate with any questions or for professional management. John Doe, personal cell phone number, try that's personal number, you know what I'm saying. So we gave this out, we encouraged everybody, and I watched in horror as dozens of BDMs replaced this with the logo. They were so terrified to use their own photo and to make this a personal thing. But when you think about it, Acme Property Management doesn't mean anything to me if we're not doing business yet. But if you're courting me and you're reaching out and you're acting as a trusted advisor and you're projecting value to me, and you basically say, look, I don't know if you're going to hire me today, Melissa, but we are eventually going to do business. And if we don't do business, if you ever have any question, I am your landlord advocate here in Boca Raton. If you ever have an issue, reach out. I'm posting on my social media all about property management. These are the systems that I promise you, you do not need to hire a social media star. You can systematize this stuff, but every good company needs assets and tools to hand over to their salespeople so that they can use their personal network and that they can actually build relationships with prospects. Melissa, do you have anything to share? Anything that you want to share that you've done particularly to build personal relationships that's worked out?
One thing I've been doing and focusing on, this is actually one of the systems I personally am focusing on to do better for myself. But Halloween and Thanksgiving, I both ordered cards from Amazon, and then I'm sending them a message handwritten, just happy Thanksgiving. I think Thanksgiving I sent recipe cards of one of my family's favorite recipes for the holidays. And then Halloween, I had a team member from RentScale help create this, but it was like, I think it was like 5 ways to stop prospects from ghosting you. So kind of like a play on Halloween. So things like that. And then I know people hear us preach on this a lot, but Bomb is a huge thing too. Just showing my face through an email versus just me kind of sending something is a little different.
That's a fantastic flavor of personal marketing systems. Melissa is a master at building a personal relationship. Another way of doing that, when I think about like Mark from GC Reality, I give a shout out to him, a longtime client of ours. They're in Chicago. They started a podcast on the ins and outs of investing in downtown Chicago. And now they promote it like crazy. They have all of the big real estate developers on the show. And he's become a local celebrity within his industry by just being an expert in the knowledge. So there's lots of ways to do this, right? But the work is systematizing it and doing it. So it's not just something you wake up and do when you feel like it, but it's something you're always doing. So thank you very much, Melissa. I want to just walk through these other ones briefly because they are very important. And all right, so I hope you guys grabbed the COVID thing if that was helpful. It's a great example. Again, the systems down here really talk about what that would actually look like. I would encourage you to read these. That's what personal marketing systems look like. So next one up is prospecting systems. Now, this can be a tall order, but I promise it's the juice is worth the squeeze. This is something, you know, companies are always asking us about. They're like, I spend all this money on pay-per-click and I'm doing all this SEO stuff, but the phone's not ringing. Well, those are all great efforts, but at the end of the day, I think that the value of your company and the stability of your company hinges on your ability to go out there and turn effort into business. And that's what prospecting systems are. So we have a number of ways to do this. Have you ever heard of Prospect Now? Prospect Now is an amazing piece of software, not that expensive. You can, within 4 zip codes for like $100 a month, I think, you can look up like 4,000 properties that are non-occupied owners. You can put in a database, an address of a property that you know about, tells you who owns it. If that person owns it, you can click on it and they'll tell you how many other properties they own in the same zip code. I mean, it's pretty mind-blowing. And then we're using that to build lists. We're using Sales Navigator. We're building relationships with, you know, divorce attorneys. Well, that's really more of the referral systems. I apologize. But using that to build relationships. Again, I can't give you all the information in this 111 systems, but ask yourself, do you have any way to reliably go out there and convert energy and attention into business? That's the essence of a prospecting system. Now, I love referral systems. Again, I think this is the biggest opportunity. Everybody blows it. I can't go too deep because we're almost out of time. I will say that a referral system should be named. It should have very explicit, it should not be a send us some business and we'll take care of you. It should be, if you do this, this is what happens. Sometimes that's a check. We know everybody loves to give referral fees. We know that you can't always give checks to people who are not licensed real estate agents. Can you donate money to charity? This is a fantastic book I'd highly recommend. In fact, let me stop sharing my screen. No BS Guide to Maximum Referrals and Customer Retention. This is actually 2 systems. You'll be blown away by the real estate referral programs in there, about how people literally raise fundraising campaigns and they say, don't send us money, send us clients and we'll donate $200 to save the kids. And they raise tens of thousands of dollars and they get all these referrals and people are just so excited to be a part of it because they're part of this referral system and they're not just this shady, like, hey, I'll send you business and you send me a check. So I wanna encourage you to rethink the way you think those through. We got lots of ideas on that, but I don't have the time to do it, I apologize. So I think we're right there at the end of the hour. Customer retention systems is the last one. My parting shot on this, guys, is that when you convert a customer, we do encourage you, like so many other people do, that customer should be handed off to somebody else. Operations are operations for a reason. What we don't want you to misconstrue is that a handoff of a customer that you've fought hard to build a relationship with and turn over is necessarily illegal or out of bounds for you to stay in touch with. There's lots of ways that you can systematically follow up, talk to them about tax exchanges, upgrading their properties, pocket listings. There's some amazing things you can be doing to both retaining and upgrading your client base. So those are 11 systems, guys. I just want to send out one poll. If you will, just stay with me for 1 second, because this is probably the most important one. I want to know from you guys what you're going to do with this. So essentially, what is it that you're going to work on in 2021? So I'm going to launch the poll. Is it effectiveness that you need help with? Is it productivity, or is it expansion? And just fill that out, because I think the rest of the group would love to know. This is more as me holding up a mirror and letting you guys see what this looks like. And we want to help. I'm going to show you some ways we can do that. I really encourage you guys to think about the installing, the mastering, and the upgrading process and the takeaways from this. All right, so let's share the poll. Looks like we got almost everybody. So not surprisingly, sales effectiveness, where I was encouraging you guys to start. There's 4 systems there. Then expansion, and then productivity. Listen, productivity is the workhorse of the 11 systems. It's not the sexy one. So I'm not surprised that that wasn't the one that was picked. Last kind of parting shot here on this is, you know, the 11 systems are not a complete list of everything you can do in sales and marketing. I get that. There's other things you can do, okay? So they're not a complete list of everything. However, I do know that completely installing them as a to-do list, getting all 11 in place, is going to ensure that you have a strong, scalable, and reliable sales department. I can't say that about other things. I can't say it will or won't work. I just know from experience, if you're installing and upping your game on these 11 systems, your sales department is going to perform the way that you want. So if we can help, please do sign up for the January kickoff sales event. I think it'll be more amazing, deep stuff. We'll be going into deep ideas within the 11 systems. If you want to forecast, if you want to talk to us about putting one of your BDMs or team members in Scale Club, if you want to know how to systematize your sales process, just book a time at renscale.com/book, and we'll make some time for you. We're around. Even during the holidays, we'll take a little time off, but we're still here. Maybe this is a good time to focus on these things. Do you mind popping that into the chat, Melissa? I can't copy that. renscale.com/book. And we will be here. So maybe this is a great time for you guys to, you know, have a consultation and think about growing your business. I didn't get any questions. I got lots of activity on the polling, which was fantastic. I see some great comments from everybody. Thank you. Niku, great to see you here, by the way. It's been a little while since we spoke. See lots of great people. Paul, Reese, Ra, Steven, Jim, Greg. I can't do everybody here. A lot of familiar faces. Happy holidays, guys. Thanks for spending some time with us. Reach out. Let us know what else you want to do and what else you want to see in these webinars. And otherwise, we'll see you in January. Thanks, Melissa.
Yep, see ya.
Take care, guys.